Hello, good evening, and welcome back to The Majority Show. This is Scotland's #1 politics show from an anti-nationalist perspective. My name is Mark Devlin, and I'm here going with my co-hosts, Mark Zegveldt and Mary Devlin. We're going out all on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter to you all tonight. How are you doing? How are both of you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, and I would just like to say a very quick hello to my niece, Anna, who is a big fan of The Majority. She's visiting Scotland from Vancouver, and when we ask her what she wants to watch on TV, she says, "I want to watch The Majority Show." So.
Poor child. Okay. Anyway, and
Hi,
Mark,
Anna.
how are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks, Mark. I've had a really good day, and it's going to be quite a really good show tonight. So
Right, what are you going to be talking about tonight?
Tonight, I'm going to talk about education. I'm going to talk about why more parents are homeschooling, and I'll give you the latest on what's happened in Parliament, where they've lost a vote.
Okay, very good. Mary, what are you going to be talking about today?
I'm also going to be talking about what's been happening in Parliament. The Scottish Government have declared a national housing emergency across Scotland.
Right, and we'll all be talking about the big issues of the day. 25 years of devolution, was it worth it? And also, are the SNP extremists?
And of course, we have Zoomer of the Week.
Right, very good. So we're back with all that goodness and more in just a few seconds. Right, welcome back to The Majority Show. Glad to have you with us tonight. We're here every Wednesday night to try and seek a better Scotland that is free of the toxic nationalism that is strangling Scotland's potential. I'm here tonight with Mary and Mark, and also many of you who are viewing tonight from Facebook pages like UK Union Voice and Unite Against Separation.
And remember, sharing is caring. The #1 thing you can do is to like this show on YouTube. Even if you don't subscribe, drop a like. And if you can't subscribe, please do so. Increase our reach at the click of a button.
Right, very good, Mary. And also, now is an ideal time to get yourself a Majority mug, or T-shirt, or mouse mat. Look at this beautiful, look at this beautiful Abolish Holyrood mug here. You can go to here it is, the Majority's website. This is they may take our lives, but they'll never take our camper vans. T-shirt that you should be wearing all occasions. Look at that guy there. Anyway, all right. A little bit from the sale of each one of these goes to help the show. And everything is reasonable price. I think Mary puts a thing down there for a little discount as well.
I'll put it up in just a second. And as usual tonight, I'll be managing your relentless flow of comments. So please keep them short and snappy, and I'll try to get as many up on screen as I can.
Right, on to the show proper then. Okay, so we'll start with the big news of today. John Swinney has, in the interests of unity, decided to give up Scottish nationalism and work with the UK government to make a better Scotland. No, sorry, scratch that. In fact, he has, in the interests of unity, decided to change his lapel pin. Up to now, Mr. Swinney has had an SNP lapel badge. Lapel, isn't it?
Lapel, I don't know.
So he's now decided, though, to change it to one showing the Union flag and saltire together. No, not that either. He's just changed it to the saltire. Apparently, an SNP insider said, John said he would be First Minister for everyone and meant it. Some have wondered if he has also changed his SNP underpants to a saltire, which is not thought that maybe we shouldn't really be broadcasting in public. And this, of course, comes after years of John Swinney's divisive behaviour. Are we supposed to forget all of that? Are we supposed to forget his smug condescension last week when he basically said that if their opponents dropped their opposition to independence, he would work with them? Or when he said that basically treated as anyone who was his opponent was a future convert to his cause? I don't think so. Anyway, you think I think this is a great thing that he has put this lapel pin. And so I'm just going to tell you tonight that we've decided, because of this amazing effort that he has made that I have now converted to the cause of Scottish nationalism.
Did that sway you completely, Mark?
That was the thing. That's what was down with the Unions. Down with the Unions. That's what I say. Independence the new.
Oh my God, he's gone to the dark side.
Yes. Okay. Mark Z. Does John Swinney's change of lapel pin make you want to turn into a raging nationalist?
No, and I wonder how much it cost for a SPAD to come up with that idea.
Oh, yes.
How many hours of committee meetings?
Yes, how many meetings they had to come up with? How can we tell everybody our support and show our support for independence? And they come up with, well, change your lapel to the saltire. It's laughable. It really is. It's getting comical now, isn't it?
But maybe that's all they could afford.
Oh, that's it. That's it, Mary. You're very good. You honed in on the money issues there. Definitely, there are some problems with the money flowing in. Someone perhaps stole all the money. Not saying any names.
Mark. No.
Well, not saying it. Someone could have. Someone could have done that. I don't know any person who could have done that, but it might have been someone. Who knows like that? Okay. So, anyway, back to real news. We have had, although that was on the Daily Record, right? Can you believe that? They actually published that. John Swinney has published, changed his lapel pin. I mean, in the interests of unity, I mean, it's just so bizarre. Anyway, seriously, this week marked 25th anniversary of the first session of the Scottish Parliament, a day otherwise known as the Nakba or catastrophe. No, wait a minute, that's Gaza. As an aside, you'll notice actually how news about Gaza has quietened down since a certain First Minister has stepped away from that. Is it coincidence, Mark?
Well, he's been at it today.
Oh,
as Humza, he's been at it today, calling, saying that the plan is to take over that region, and Israel are going to remove every Hamas and Palestinian from Gaza. It's a plan that they've come up with, and it's ethnic cleansing. That's what he called it, ethnic cleansing.
Right.
He called it, which is, I think, a real bad term to use. It's quite a divisive term to use, I think.
It shouldn't be thrown around lightly, should it?
No, not at all. But he's still there, and he's still doing it. I don't think he's looking after his constituency, unless.
Oh, that's right. He's got a constituency. Okay.
Maybe
forgot about that.
Has anyone told him?
Maybe not.
Right. Okay. Anyway, 25 years of devolution. What do we have to show for it? Baby boxes,
that's a hard
perhaps. Let's have a read of what Andrew Neil said. Okay, Andrew Neil said, tomorrow is the 25th anniversary of Scottish devolution. The silence you hear is the sound of nobody celebrating. Holyrood has been a dripping roast for the Scottish political elite and burgeoning nomenclatura, that's a big word, who've enjoyed salaries, expenses, perks, status and state funding beyond their wildest dreams. Very true. But for most Scots, it's been very thin gruel indeed, unless you want a baby box. However, they have only themselves to blame. This is actually a point that we can agree on here. By their electoral choices over the past quarter century, it is they have turned it into the numpty nursery. But then he ends with this saying, and now there's no way back, which is a bit strange to me, because why is there no way back? I noticed this defeatist attitude by various commentators during this week. For example, Stephen Daisley in the Daily Mail, he said, Holyrood was a historic error and one we are now stuck with. Okay. Well, in the Scotsman today, Murdo Fraser said that Holyrood was here to stay and proposed that we should add more MSPs.
Oh, for God's sake.
Apparently because they have so much work to do these days. A reminder says here they work 3 days a week. I find all this discussion pretty bizarre, because we're looking at these, respectable commentators and MSPs who know what's going on. They know that this thing has been a failure, yet none of them will even contemplate that it should be abolished. And the reforms that they're offering are the most minuscule possible. In fact, in Murdo Fraser's case, it's the opposite. They're saying, "Well, I get more MSPs going." So, what do you think of this, Mark? How can these people understand the symptoms but not be able to treat the patient? And you were talking to Murdo today. You said so.
I interviewed Murdo today on his paper on reforming Parliament, and one thing is, and he corrected the record on this, he never actually said he wants more MSPs. In fact, his opinion is that there should be maybe less MSPs. He's actually said at least no more than what there is now. He thinks there should be less ministers as well in Parliament. But he said he never actually said there should be more. He said,
I don't really buy that so much. The reason is that in his article, he basically said Alison Johnson, who's the presiding officer, had said that there should be more MSPs. And he said, well, maybe there should be more, or maybe but he didn't really say there should be less. He just said maybe he said maybe there should be less ministers in the public thing. So I'm not convinced anyway, and I'm not really convinced. I mean, we look at the comments on our Twitter pages, and I'm sure yours is very similar, Mark. Yeah. And it's like, let's reduce the number to 0 and then start again.
He actually mentioned that as well, because I said to him at the beginning, I said, my view, I said, I'll be upfront with you, Murdo. My view is, I've never believed in devolution. I don't think we should have had devolution in the first place. I didn't vote for it, and I'm totally against it. And he smiled and said, yes, he said, I do know that. He said, and I do realise from when I produced this paper and I put it up on my account, the number of comments that answered it that said, forget about reforming government. We want rid of the
I think perhaps they're in a bit of a bubble. It's a little bit surprising that. Oh, it's not surprising. They are in a bubble. I mean, we had the situation. I don't know. It was like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 months ago, where the Scottish Conservative Party actually did polling on the topic of the effectiveness of devolution, and what they did was they used that specifically to berate David Frost, Lord Frost, who had basically said devolution was a disaster. But inside that information, that polling, it showed that over 50% of their own followers, Scottish Conservatives, wanted to abolish Holyrood. Right? So basically what's happened, they willfully ignored what their followers or voters wanted and used that same information to attack David Frost, who said devolution was a disaster. Now, I think what might be happening is that there is a wider understanding now that it's been a failure. We've had 25 years of failure. And these insiders don't understand that that's the case. But I think really what they don't understand is the amount of anger that people have, that they've been put through this psychodrama and have had to deal with Sturgeon, Salmond, a referendum, Sturgeon, arrests, Humza Yousaf, Gaza, and so on. And it's just, I think many people just think, why on earth did we sign up to this as Scots? I mean, it's time to say no more. And we get, but I mean, here's an article here from that was about Anna Sarwar. Now the Labour people were up there saying, "Oh yeah, we invented it, and we are proud of it." I mean, how can you actually be proud? And we want more of it. How can you be proud of something like this when it's caused so much destruction? I think it's very strange. What do you think, Mark?
My personal stance is, I 100% agree with you. I think we should. My opinion is, and I've always said it, that devolution hasn't worked. It's been an absolute disaster. But we are stuck with it because there's no way Westminster is going to agree to any kind of referendum on this. They're not even going to have a discussion on this. Scottish Parliament are not going to have a discussion on this. So my personal view is, while we are fighting to get rid of abolish Parliament, I still think we need to push quite very hard to get it reformed, but get it reformed properly, so it is at least working better than it is now. Because at the moment, as it is, and Murdo agreed with this, as it stands now, It is an absolute waste of space, and it is not working whatsoever. So until we can get at least Westminster at least talking about this, we do need to start pushing for it to get reformed in a way where it actually works.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a feeling that some people think, well, we're stuck with this. I don't think we're ever stuck with anything. I think when there's political will, we can change things. I mean, let's look at it.
I think if it comes from the people, there could be a groundswelling of people, and if the people can get a leader behind this.
Well, it's not necessarily a matter of just even a leader. There's demand already there. As I said, 50% Conservative voters already want to abolish. 20% of Labour voters want to abolish as well. So there are people out there. That's before any campaign has started. Now, Alex Salmond was able to get a referendum on the breakup of the UK with just less 25% support. Now, okay, he had representatives in the Scottish Parliament at that time, but again, it was still not by any means a majority of the Scottish vote. So, and as Stephen Bailey, who's I'll mention him in a second, who mentioned in the comments there. But people thought Brexit couldn't happen. People were like, it's just not going to happen. There's too many entrenched interests in there. There's too many things going on. I'm a believer that there is a strong political will here at the moment, and that we can bring this point to the attention of Westminster and the Scottish Parliament itself. Now, that's not going to be, I'm not saying that's particularly easy. What I'm saying is, though, there can be a political movement for change, and I hope that would be a cross-party movement. And then that's the thing that will generate reform, because right now, there's no incentives to reform anything. Anna Sarwar is saying more devolution. We're going to put mayors in. Well, mayor's just an extra layer of government, right? So, it should be one or the other. Put the mayors in, get rid of the parliament. Okay, fair enough, we can do that. But adding more people in, you're like, we've already got enough, and look what they've done for that. So I think this is, nationalists are always saying that they want a referendum. Isn't it time we say we want a referendum and start getting people behind that, and the media and commentators.
I completely agree with you, Mark, but that's going to take time, isn't it?
Sure.
To do that. That's going to take time. What I want is, while that is while we're dealing with that and we're pushing for that, I don't want us to forget that Holyrood needs to change now, because now they are enacting bad laws, and that's stated in this paper. They are acting. They were bringing in bad laws, and the process of bringing in these bad laws is happening time and time again. So we need change now. So I want to also concentrate on changing Holyrood while asking.
Sure. Well, they're not exclusive, so it's possible to do that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that needs, of course, fixed is the electoral system. Getting rid of these list MPs, like Murdo, sad to say, or maybe not so sad to say for some people's opinion, is possible, because I think people don't know who they're being represented by. Why have these list MPs, at all? And it's just let the Greens in, of course. Anyway, I'm very fond of saying that the person who says it can't be done should get out of the way of the people who says it. The people doing it. So I think we need to work on this, and part of that is, I mentioned Stephen Bailey earlier. We put a comment there. We wrote an article together here, which is on the majority website, which is called "No, We Are Not Stuck with Devolution," and it talks about these events. Anna Sarwar, they're talking about how proud he is, and so on, Andrew Neil, and so on, Daisley, and then says, what are the next steps? So I think it's a required reading for anyone who wants to get an outline of where we are and where we're going with any possible campaign and that. And also, one other thing we're doing is we're going to do a survey on people's opinions about this topic. And for example, one of the questions in that is, do you think it can be done? That'll be one of the things as well. And also, and talk about the options, because lots of people have different ideas of what should come after, or the reforms. Even let's say it was reforms. What are those reforms? what things are really necessary at this point? What's your most important reform, for example, Mark? What's the thing that you would like to do most?
My biggest bugbear is ministers that actively lie in Parliament, and there's no way of coming back on them. The presiding officer's position needs to be strengthened. We need a truly independent presiding officer, not one that was part of the government 2 months ago. It needs to be someone from the opposition, in my view, someone from Labour or Conservative or Liberals need to be a presiding officer. They need to have the powers to make sure that ministers are answering the questions like they do in Westminster. They have that power. I think ministers that lie and the fact being found to have lied need to face serious consequences, not just, it's up to them whether they correct the record or not. That is just not good enough, because trust has been eroded because of the amount of ministers that lie. I think the committee system needs to change. That's nowhere near strong enough, nowhere near good enough. It's not independently run. The chair of the committees are chosen by the party rather than Parliament. I think
right. Okay, well, that's a big list there. Didn't he ask for a big list?
He said he wanted reform. That's a lot of reform.
Yeah, a lot of reform. I just don't see that there's any incentive to them to do it without the threat that they would actually lose their jobs. Anyway, please do, when we do get this survey out, hopefully soon, please do put your opinion on there, and let's see if we can, come up with some decent suggestions for that. Right, thanks for that there.
A couple of comments. The USSR collapsed, Holyrood would be simple. Okay.
Yes.
And 129 MSPs is bad enough. Abolish the list. That's what I would go for if you'd asked me. To stop extremists getting in.
Yeah, I think getting rid of the list is definitely high on the list, so to speak. In that case, broken electoral system. Now, I think there's been some mention about that by Labour, but the thing is as well, we can put pressure on. You can put pressure on. Say, look, what we try to do here is try to say, look, we have followers, and they believe that nationalists should be pushed back. Right? That's the thing. We shouldn't be appeased. And one of the best ways to appease them is to push back on all these powers that they've taken for themselves, and in many cases not even used. Anyway, we'll be back in a second with more. Let's ask the question: are the SNP extremists? So back in a moment. Right, fingers crossed. We don't have any technology issues this week, but it seems to be going well so far.
Don't say it.
But anyway, let's see, what have we got? Thank you for being with us, and please hit the like button. Okay. So in a bit of unusual news this week, Rishi Sunak decided to take a pop at the Scottish Nationalists, lumping them in with other miscreants and troublemakers. In a speech at the Policy Exchange think tank, he said extremists are using global conflicts to set Britain against Britain. Okay, let's see what it's got to say.
From gender activists hijacking children's sex education to cancel culture, vocal and aggressive fringe groups are trying to impose their views on the rest of us. They're trying to make it morally unacceptable to believe something different and undermine people's confidence and pride in our own history and identity. Scottish nationalists are even trying to tear our United Kingdom apart.
Whoa. Truth hurts, does it, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I agree with him completely. I think we are seeing extremism in Scotland, and I think it's being led by the politicians, a lot of from the top down. I think the supporters feel emboldened to be and are becoming more and more extreme the more that they are losing the battle, shall we say, the battle for Scotland. They're losing it and they're becoming more extreme. And I think we've got a very extreme party in Scotland in the Greens. They are extremists, 100% extremists, and a danger to the UK. So I 100%, I agree with him completely, but I do think it's been blown well out of proportion as well from what he said. I think some of the chest the chest thumping from some of the politicians in Scotland, getting the supporters to rise up against this. I think it's the usual nonsense. I think, and it shows you that he was right.
Yes, well, that's the thing. People who are extremists who are, coming back with extreme nonsense as well. I mean, what I like about this issue is that the SNP are finally being forced to defend themselves. This is something that we don't see and we haven't seen. They've always been in the front foot, attacking Westminster. Oh, Westminster's bad. Westminster's this. Westminster's that. And here he says one sentence. Right, they're extremists, and I actually think it was a mistake for them to even kind of acknowledge it. They just went, "Oh yeah, that's the Prime Minister. He's an idiot," like that. That's what I would have done, because basically now by focusing on it, everyone thinks, yeah, that's now the discussion's all about whether the SNP are extremists or not, and it's now that sticks in their mind. And the thing, of course, and the thing that's I think that it should do it is because breaking up the UK is an extreme position. And nationalists have for far too long, they've been able to convince people that Scottish independence is a noble cause, right? And that's something that should be left up to the Scots to decide. It's their destiny, their self-determination and all this. But Scottish independence is this exact same thing as breaking up the UK. And breaking up the UK is not a noble cause in any way. Breaking up the UK is not something that should be a decision left only to the Scots, or certainly not even to the Scots, to a minority, a dwindling minority of nationalists in one part of the country. I mean, what would Scots think if people in Cornwall wanted to break up the UK? I don't think so. That's not the way it works. So that's the thing. They've been able to convince everyone that they've got a noble cause, but in fact, their cause is extremely extreme. You say, "I want to break up the country I'm living in." I mean, come on. It's nonsense, right? Yeah. So and also this other thing is it's so greedy as well. They think that they're the only people who are allowed to do it, right? That Scots uniquely should be the ones who've got a say in the entire breakup of the whole UK. Right. Yeah. And the thing is, the media and everyone has gone along with this, and it might just have taken something like this from Rishi Sunak, that they're extremists, to break the back of this once and for all.
I also think it's the language they've been using since they lost in the Supreme Court of, well, we're just going to use an election, we're just going to break up the UK, we're just going to contact Westminster if we win enough seats and say we are about to leave. So I do think that is part of the issue of the extremism, where they're just going to say, well, we're leaving, like Catalonia.
Yes.
I think that's part of the extremist views that they're coming out with.
Well, it's just such an indulgence. It's like we have all these articles about the de facto referendum. You're like, what? Why? It's, for example, months and months and months talking about a de facto referendum that everyone knows this is extremism, and it's the most extreme part of it. It doesn't have any bearing to reality. It doesn't have any bearing to people's lives in Scotland. It's just a complete made-up nonsense, and that's just one of the things they talked about. Is meanwhile we're trying to get our bins emptied. Anyway, it just seems to it's quite interesting. I didn't expect them to come up with this. Anyway, so, Flynn, he's all grumpy about it, right? He was up in the.
Do you think Penny Mordaunt might be behind it, pushing him to say something?
Well, maybe it's just timing. People are like, they're weak now, and maybe that's part of it. Flynn Sunak. Okay, right. So I think it's some extent. It's just sometimes when you say the truth in public, emperor's new clothes type of thing, and you don't think anything of it yourself. Of course they're extremists, but the people are out there like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, actually they are. Like that. Anyway, here's Flynn today.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the Prime Minister outlined what he considers to be extremist threats to our society. And in doing so, he actively compared North Korea, Iran and Russia with those people in Scotland who believe in independence. So can I ask him to rise once to the standards befitting of his office and apologise for those puerile and pathetic remarks?
Mr. Speaker, that's not what I said, but I would say to the honourable gentleman that his party is indeed a threat to the integrity of the United Kingdom. And I hate to remind him, but that's literally their entire purpose, Mr. Speaker.
Well, it is literally their entire purpose. It's like, you know, we're going. But that's the third point of it. It's so much emperor's new clothes. This is the thing. They've been saying one thing, covering themselves up in this noble garb, as it were, and then someone goes, "Well, actually, you're an extremist," and people, "Oh, right. Oh, actually, we're breaking up the UK. Oh, it's like waking up out of some kind of dream or something, right?" So. Quite something, Mary. Any comments you've got coming in about that?
Not particularly.
Right, okay.
To be honest, no.
That's fine anyway. Right, it says, I'll remember, it's not Scottish independence, it is breaking up the UK. I mean, how many years has it taken us to get to this point? It's crazy. It really is crazy. Mark, anything else, final words in this part?
Yeah, I just love the fact that they keep adding to what he actually said. You know, his speech has gotten longer and longer, and they just keep adding to it. And now he suddenly mentions him in the same breath as Russia. And
well, I mean, that's an interesting point because, you know, basically Russia and Iran were accused of election interference in what's called the independence referendum, break up the UK referendum, and are probably still behind half of the bots that we see on Twitter today. So I mean, it's like this, as I said, miscreants and troublemakers.
Yeah,
exactly. An axis of crap. Let's put it that way. Anyway, coming up, Mary's going to talk about Joanna Cherry, and Mark's going to talk about homeschooling. All good. In the meantime, this is an ideal opportunity to hit the like button or even subscribe to the channel. I will see you back in a few seconds. I can find a thing. Right, very good. All right, it's Mary. I think Mary's going to talk about Joanna Cherry.
Well, this week, Joanna Cherry is attacking gay Scots on social media who say they're afraid of her proposal of a Palestinian refugee scheme because Palestinians are homophobic. And now she's branding these gay Scots as being racists. So,
how does that work?
Well, she's saying that they're just being racist.
Right.
Basically not acknowledging the fact that, you know, a lot of the people in Palestine are very homophobic and people in Scotland are scared of what might happen if they come to Scotland. So the members of the gay and lesbian community have raised their concerns about the attitudes towards homosexuality in Palestine and that region. On social media, one user showed that research had claimed that 93% of Palestinians are opposed to homosexuality.
Yeah, I watched a video actually the other day of them, and they went and and asked. It was like a man in the street kind of thing in Gaza, I think. I mean, it could be even the West Bank or something. And they asked them, and some of the people didn't actually know what it was. It's so far removed from their
culture.
Lives.
Yeah. Well, attitudes are a little bit more liberal in the West Bank, but definitely not in Gaza. So gay people are routinely persecuted and subject to violence in Palestine. Right. One of the gay activists in Scotland called Gavin Barry said, I do not want Palestinians to be resettled in Scotland. Why would I support people that hate me for being gay? But he was then blocked by Joanna Cherry, and then she told her followers, today I tweeted in support of a humanitarian visa scheme to allow Palestinians in Gaza to come and stay temporarily with their families in the UK. Some of the responses were redolent of the most appalling racism. So, I mean, do you want Palestinians from Gaza coming into Scotland?
I actually know Gavin. He comes into spaces that I host.
Right.
And, he's actually he's a nationalist. He's actually a Scot. He's for independence. So it just shows you they're arguing against each other. But he has come out in quite a long time. He's an SNP member, which he's given up his card and he's disgusted with the SNP, and he said he will never vote for them ever again. And he's far from a racist. I think his point was pretty valid. Why would the gay community in Scotland welcome people that in their own country would actually kill them? So I think it was a valid point. I cannot for the life of me see where the racism comes into it. I don't understand that. It's just.
Well, she's saying that he just doesn't want them because they're Palestinian.
Well, that's not what he said, and it's nowhere near what he said. And it goes with this narrative that we've seen with the SNP. If you don't like the debate and you don't like somebody else having a different view, you call them a racist, you call them a bigot, you call them Islamophobic, and you try and shut that debate down. Now, I think it's a very genuine worry for the gay community in Scotland. I don't see why they shouldn't have that kind of opinion and that kind of worry, especially when you see in Gaza, where the borders in Gaza, Egypt and that, are refusing to take any of the anyone from that area, any of the Hamas, any of the Palestinians. They put up a wall to stop them from going into Egypt. So if they're concerned about them, I think we should be quite concerned if they're just going to bring them over here.
Yeah, I don't understand this need to try and be the good guy in the world. This virtue signal. Oh, we are good people. We will bring them here and whatever. And you don't actually know who these people are, or actually in many cases we do know who they are. They're regressive and homophobic, and they've got these type of things. Now, our country has gone through all that already. And okay, some people might say, yeah, you bring people and they learn our ways, but that's not actually doesn't happen. You see what's happening. I think it's in Germany. We talk about the Afghans who've been there, or in Sweden, and the amount of crime and so on, all this type of stuff. It's like put them. There's countries nearby them. Take them. Why don't those countries take them? I don't. That's the thing I don't really understand. Countries. Certainly, and it seems very strange that Joanna Cherry. I don't understand what Joanna Cherry's on about. I think it's just this trapped into this, possibly trapped into this Gaza thing via Hamza and all that, and now she's be having to come up with this type of stuff. And it's like leave it alone. It's like, what's that got to do with in Scotland, really? Mary, finish off this section.
Well, basically, there is it's very surprising to hear Joanna Cherry talking like this, because normally, of course, she's normally a big supporter of the gay community, being gay herself. So I think it shows that there's just an awful lot of infighting. They're fighting about everything now.
Yeah, really are. Right, good segment there, Mary. Okay, we'll be back in a second. Fine thing. And Mark's going to talk about homeschooling, which is a thing we haven't heard much about before. So we'll get back in a second to talk about that. Right, Mark, what's all this about homeschooling?
Yeah, the reports come out that homeschooling is on the rise in Scotland. It's gone up 40% in the last year alone.
Right.
Now, this is due to a couple of issues. One is to the amount of violence in schools that's going on, and the other is the decreasing standards of education being taught in schools. Now, we now have 2,200 children being homeschooled in Scotland.
Okay.
And it's going up and up and up.
Right.
We have, and these are some statistics that I've found, and I think it's quite eye-opening. 29,180 incidents of violence. That's up 53% from 18,993, which was before COVID and since COVID. And in fact, them numbers would even are a bit skewed, because it would be a lot higher because Glasgow City Council, biggest council, refused to give their numbers out.
Oh, really?
So do Ayrshire Council as well. South Ayrshire refused to give their numbers out as well. So them numbers would be a hell of a lot higher.
I think also the numbers homeschooled would be much, much higher, because there are very few parents who can actually afford or are able to do homeschooling. So the fact that there are 2,200 kids being homeschooled, there obviously must be, children of parents who somehow have the means or the ability to do the homeschooling. But I mean, most people aren't able to, even if they wanted to.
Well, it's quite a big thing in the States, right, Mary? So the homeschool your kids. I don't know for what reasons. Generally, it's like we don't agree with the education agenda of the federal government type thing, or maybe it's just people don't like the schools in their neighbourhood or whatever it is. But it's not such a big thing here so far. But certainly, if parents feel that their kids are in danger at school, then certainly, of course, they have the right to take them out in school. And the thing, of course, concern really is the quality of the education that they're going to get. Does it say anything about that?
I think it's actually more the social issues.
Sorry, Mary. Carry on.
I was about to say that, for a child, if the parents might be capable of giving them a decent education, but they miss out on all the social aspects of being at school and being with other kids the same age.
Well, yeah, but one of the issues as well as the violence is the decreasing standards of education, because we've seen primary school teachers who have kids leaving primary school who can't read and write. The numbers are going up and up in that. So I think the standards of teaching has gone. Well, it's the curriculum as well, and what's being taught, because we know maths, science, and English is all failing in education. The PISA report showed you that it was failing quite badly. So I think, I do think we are having some serious issues with education, which is becoming quite apparent.
Well, it's the breakdown with discipline. Teachers have no way to discipline kids anymore.
Well, they have put them in detention and so on, but it's not.
But
are you going to bring back the belt, Mary? That was this.
Belt them all.
No,
Throw dusters at them.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the way it used to be, wasn't it? Who hasn't, of our age group, hasn't had a duster thrown at them? You'd have to be like a star pupil in that case. Now, anyway, whatever. It's, I don't know. It's an interesting situation. I think the main thing is standards, really. And I think if people can't find a school near to them that's working for them, then they, as I said, they can take their child out. But somehow it needs to be the state that they're not. You don't become, they're just being taken out of school and not taught. And as Mary says, it's obviously quite an expensive or time-consuming issue. Now we say that, right? But in the old days, the mother used to stay at home, teach children to some extent. I think, let's say mothers that would stay-at-home mothers, not necessarily teaching children.
We saw in Parliament today that there was an amendment by Jenny Guilfoyle on education, and it was basically, it's a long amendment, but basically it was saying how well the Scottish Government have been doing in education, and it was the first time the SNP have lost a vote.
Oh, really?
And it was the presiding officer who had the final say, and she voted against the government's own amendment. So
right.
That is, and we're here. I've read some of the comments that have been said about this, and it's going to be, it's going to carry on. These losses in Parliament are going to be occurring quite often now because they don't have the numbers. So it is a dead duck, lame duck government, this.
Yes.
Where they can't get any of their policies through because the Greens are now showing that they're going to vote against them at every turn.
Yes. Oh, that's a good point. Yes, that is a very good point.
Good.
Right, we'll have to see how this comes together over the next while. Now, this is a good opportunity for you to help the majority by donating to our various fundraisers. We have you can put a super thanks or a super sticker if you're on YouTube. And otherwise, if you like what we do and want us to continue working hard every week on this show, then and all the other stuff we do, then please, if you can do a monthly donation to our 2024 donation fundraiser, which is on our majority website. You can just look that up, and every page on the right hand side is a wee button that says donate, and you can do a monthly donation from £2 or as much as you can afford. Everything is appreciated, large or small. Anything is really gratefully appreciated. So if you can do that, we would love it. That would be brilliant. Right. Okay. Next up, Mary is going to be talking about emergencies, a housing emergency.
One in particular, yes.
That's right. So we'll be back in a second. Right, well, we solved our housing emergency, moved house. It was a bit of a challenge.
We're one of the lucky ones.
Gradually settling in. But Mary, tell us about the wider housing emergency that's going on.
Today, Scottish Labour tabled a motion at Holyrood for the second time to force the Scottish Government to acknowledge the extent of the housing crisis across Scotland. So finally, the Scottish Government have declared a national housing emergency. The announcement came from Social Justice Secretary Shirley Ann Somerville. She declared the housing emergency, but she said it was because of Brexit, UK government
Right.
austerity, and economic incompetence.
Right, but you've been following this for a while, Mary. You must know that that's not the case.
Economic incompetence it is indeed, but I've been talking about this coming. We all knew it was coming the way they were going for probably about a year and a half, 2 years now. So I can see that blaming Brexit and trying to blame Brexit and trying to blame the UK government austerity. I mean, that doesn't explain why the rest of the UK doesn't have a housing emergency. Why just Scotland? But I would say that she's absolutely bang on with the economic incompetence. Although I'm very surprised that she admitted it. So
did she admit it for herself, or did she say?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that's what she meant. But anyway,
Right.
that's the way I'm taking it. Anyone who knows anything about this very sorry situation knows that this housing emergency has been caused by government interference and neglect in what should be a free market.
Oh, yes.
But the SNP, doing the bidding of the Greens, stuck their big stupid noses in and started meddling with forces they don't understand, which of course leads to unintended consequences. They don't even understand.
Intended, I think, in some cases.
They don't understand even basic economics. So they get no idea what kind of mess they were going to cause. They created a perfect storm of ill-conceived and disastrous housing policies for house builders and landlords, such as the rent freezes, the no eviction rules, all these net zero regulations, enforcing heat pumps, banning gas boilers and wood stoves, interconnected alarms. I mean, people are just going, leave us alone, please leave us alone. And just generally, they made it clear that they hate landlords and they don't care about the business of house building. So basically, blaming Westminster absolutely doesn't cut it. UK ministers are pointed to the fact that the Scottish Government receives about 25% more funding per person than other parts of the UK. So how can they claim it's, Westminster austerity? And the Scottish Government itself made a £200 million reduction in the budget for housing this year. £200 million they cut the budget by.
Yes, and as Kenny says there, that money went to bicycle paths.
That's where it did go.
Yes.
So the Scottish Property Federation is warning that Scotland is about to miss out on £4.5 billion of private sector housing investment over the next decade, which could have brought 17,000 construction jobs and thousands of new homes. Because of the Scottish Government's stupidity, we're going to miss out on that.
They're just not interested, that's thing. I mean, it's not that they're not interested. People like Ross Greer actively hate landlords.
Yep.
They think landlords are evil people.
And the SNP have been doing everything that the Greens wanted.
So basically we're stuck with this.
And this is where we are.
Anti-landlord legislation. Now, sure, I mean, there must be some landlords who are bad people, but to destroy the whole market, housing market just to get back at them, can we not just target the people who are doing bad stuff That's what we want to do
Yeah.
instead of targeting everyone who's not doing bad stuff. This seems to be their thing in everything. Same with the bottle deposit return scheme. It's like target the people who are throwing the bottles away. Don't annoy everyone else who is putting their bottles in the recycling. It's not complicated, but they just want to. They think everyone's to blame. Everyone is part of the system that they want to break, and really extremists, like actual extremists, they're all extremists.
Well, they
but
just
the
have
green
really,
extremists are even
they've
worse.
got no idea what they're doing. So the big question now is, we have a national housing emergency now, but who in the Scottish Government has any idea how to fix this mess that they've made?
No, I don't think
And
so.
how's it going to get fixed? They're going to have to bring in other people.
And how? I mean, this is a point here. I read this on Twitter. It's like, why is there an emergency? And so many emergencies, a climate emergency, all this. It's like the Scottish Government declares these emergencies. Well, they should be dealing with them so they don't become emergencies. Right?
It's not like we don't see them coming.
Yeah, right. They created the whole thing in the first place. So
I think as well, it's government overreach. They get involved in the private sector and they start making laws governing like private renting and things like that. And they don't understand the market. They don't understand how to do it. They don't seek advice from experts. So they just go in full, with these big headlines. We're going to freeze rents so people can afford to rent and they won't be paying more. And they don't understand the market. They don't understand what they're doing.
They don't understand the concept of a free market. It's let the market sort itself out.
They do understand the concept of it, but they don't like it.
Yeah.
Right? They don't like that someone's going to get the wrong end of the stick somewhere. Right? So it's better that everyone gets the wrong end of the stick than just some people. That's the way they think, right? So it brings everyone down. It's communism or socialism and extreme. It's like if everyone should suffer because so that no one should suffer. But in fact, of course, that just means everyone suffers in the end. Mary, it's shocking, and it's just a general nonsense, really, isn't it? I mean, it's like destroy something and then say, oh, it's an emergency, and then do nothing to fix it.
Well, they've been forced into saying it's an emergency. They've been trying to avoid saying it's a national emergency because they know they're the ones who actually caused it.
And they only declared it an emergency because they knew they were going to lose the vote in Parliament.
Yeah, the Labour forced them into it.
Right, well, okay. Very good. All right, good section there, Mary. Things you can do to support the show. You can make a donation to the crowdfunder. We never mentioned that. All right. So you can buy a t-shirt and a mug. Look at this. Oh, Jesus. Abolish Holyrood. Look at that. You can have that. You can impress your friends. Annoy your enemies. You can also get an Abolish Holyrood mug, which will be used to drink the tears of useless MSPs when they get booted. You can also subscribe to the show on YouTube, and you can tell your friends about us. You can do all of the above, which makes us feel really loved. Underlined exclamation mark. Coming up, it's a moment you've all been waiting for. It is the highlight of the week. It is Zoomer of the Week.
Yay.
All right, what have we got here? All right, when is a union not a union? Sounds like some kind of Zen poem. But this is a question that was recently asked. This is a question that was asked by recently backbenched. I knew I should have written that. Recently backbenched Scottish Minister Emma Roddick. And she was in the National, and she said she would love to see a cooperation agreement with England and the rest of the UK should Scotland ever become independent. Going further, she said, I don't want Scotland to be independent and then act on its own. I want us to be a voice on the world stage. They always want that. And promote international cooperation. I would love to have an independent Scotland be in some sort of union with a cooperation agreement with the rest of the UK. Some sort of union. Does that ring a bell?
If only we had a union.
Aside from the fact that independence isn't going to happen anytime soon, and it's most likely not going to happen at all now. And Miss Roddick is going to be out of a job soon. Isn't she currently promoting international non-cooperation by trying to break up the UK. And more importantly, as Mary said, there we already have a union with the UK, which happened 300 years ago. It's called the Act of Union, and it resulted in a unitary state called the UK, United Kingdom, and then in Northern Ireland and Ireland were added onto it. But anyway, whatever. We have a united country already, which doesn't have a hard border. It doesn't have need trade agreements between the different parts of it, although they tried to make it so. That was the case. And it doesn't have any currency issues, all issues that would happen if she had her way. I mean, she split the country up, put a hard border there, put a different currency up, and then say, oh, yeah, but we want to be in a union now with you. It's absolutely insane. So, and you can be guaranteed that if Scotland did break up with the rest of the UK, the rest of the UK wouldn't be playing nice with a bunch of people who just put up a hard border against them.
Just cut us off and that would be it.
I mean, that's what they say. They say, like, oh, we're not going to be a hard border. Well, they actually eventually do say there's a hard border. But they're saying there's not going to be a border. You're like, that's not your decision. Borders get two sides. Or more sometimes. But anyway, so for wanting to have a nationalist cake and eat it, another greedy nationalist. My vote goes to Emma Roddick. I've got the thing here. This is to prove it.
Let's see the proof.
Yeah. Indy should not mean end of union with UK, says former minister.
Oh, what does it mean?
Absolute insanity. Where did they get these people? I suppose it's just kind of
they're
desperation.
so used to talking in riddles, aren't they?
Well, that's what I say. It's like a Zen poem. It's like we want independence, but we want a union. And that thing that, what's his name's coming out with, Swinney's coming out with, uniting for independence. You're like, what? Uniting for independence? No, I don't think so. It's it really is that, peace is war was freedom is slavery nonsense. Anyway, nutter.
Okay.
Next up, it's going to be Mark. So hold on a second. Right, Mark, who have you got for us?
Mine is the First Minister, John Swinney.
Yes.
And because he got the question on the BBC interview, he was asked, what makes a woman? So he answered.
I've got it here. Might as well play it. Here we go.
Let's hear it.
Do you believe that a trans woman is a woman?
I believe a woman is an adult female born as a woman, and I also accept that transgender women are defined as women.
Oh, okay.
And he's been slated. He's been slated by all the women's groups, the women's rights groups. It's one of those. If he'd have just stopped at the point where he said a woman is someone who's born a woman, it'd have been fine. But it's John Swinney who's, ever since he's become First Minister, wants to please everybody. He thought, well, if I say this, I'm pleasing females and I'm pleasing...
Yeah, he's trying to square the circle, right?
Yeah,
so to speak.
Yeah. And in doing that, I think he's upset everybody. So, it's again, and it's this, he couldn't answer.
Yes, no.
But he's really very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the kind of topic that can end careers. We saw how Nicola Sturgeon's career was ended in part by Isla Bryson's penis, and the way that she couldn't say that if trans women are women, then why is she not being put in, or she being put into the female prison, right? Why is she being taken out? He's been taken out. That's the thing. You're like, oh, well, okay, it's a special rule then. Maybe they're not women. No, anyway, whatever. Too confusing for people. I think there is an answer to this question somewhere in there. And I think Swinney's searching for it.
Yeah,
like a legal definition or something, trying to say, okay, the biological definition is this, but in our society we have a legal definition that is maybe incomplete and maybe does not work in all circumstances. That'd be better, perhaps.
A large women's organisation answered him and said, "We got rid of Sturgeon because of she couldn't answer that question. We got rid of Humza because he couldn't answer that question. and we will get rid of you if you can't answer that question. Now, that I think this topic is going to play quite big in the next general election and possibly in the Holyrood election, because there's a lot of women have said they will not vote Labour because of the
Because they support GRR.
Yeah, well, they're rolling back. I mean, they are beginning to roll that back.
Yeah.
As well.
And he actually answered that question, didn't he? The Labour leader, Scottish Labour leader, he answered that question, and he said he answered it the way we all expected him to answer it. So I do think he's got some serious questions to answer, and he's still not. I think that question is going to come back again.
Right. Well, I don't know. He's just so dull, isn't he? He's just like, he's dullest.
Turgid.
Turgid, yeah. I mean, it's just not exciting at all. And the other day, he was on the radio, and it was like, you couldn't hear him. He speaks so quietly. I mean, the radio obviously compensates. The engineers on the radio are like, try to turn the volume up. You still couldn't hear him.
He's extremely nondescript.
Oh, it's terrible. Grey man. Anyway, but, they can still do a lot of danger as well.
He's a placeholder.
All right. Okay, very good there, Mark. A worthy contender, but of course, we all have to figure out and worry about what Mary's going to come up with. All right, so we're back in a second with Mary's. All right, Mary, you can do it.
My Zoomer of the week are the Gaelic pushers who are trying to stick Scottish Gaelic on everything all over Scotland.
Right.
From road signs to ambulances.
I'll stick it on you.
They would if they could, using a language that the great majority of Scots don't understand, we don't speak a word of, and we certainly can't read or write. So Glasgow Airport are the ones that got it wrong this week, and they were pounced on social media for confusing Irish Gaelic with Scottish Gaelic.
Oh, okay.
I mean, who the hell knows the difference?
Well, I guess get some Gaelic.
A few people in Scotland know the difference, but hardly any. It was on an advert for their Caledonia bar and restaurant. They had a picture they shared on social media, shows a hoarding thing announcing their new bar, and what they thought was Scottish Gaelic for coming soon, but it was actually Irish Gaelic for "Are you hungry?" Doesn't sound too bad actually, but I mean,
how do you know it was botched then?
Because a certain Murdo McSween from away up in Stornoway, he was offended, and he tweeted, "Good morning, Glasgow Airport. Maybe don't just Google your translations. That's Irish, not Scottish Gaelic. Show some respect."
Well, I'm a bit confused about this now, because basically if it's a restaurant that's coming soon and they say, "Are you hungry?"
Yeah, I know. What's the problem?
That sounds like marketing to me. It sounds like marketing to me.
Anyway, so this Murdo McSween from Stornoway, he told the Herald, "It's just a kick in the teeth that companies do this. They may have some good intentions, but the disrespect not to check or confirm the spelling grammar is ridiculous." And I would say that is the problem with trying to pretend to be more Scottishy by using a language that the great majority of Scots have absolutely no knowledge of. How can it be more Scottish if most Scottish people have no idea what it is?
Well, I mean, don't you know, you have to wave the saltire, wear a kilt, and, speak Gaelic, at least a few words of it, to be more Scottish than the rest of us.
No, it's far more Scottish
And vote for
to use
SNP.
proper English. Well, that's what the great vast majority of Scottish people use.
Well, that's true. I mean, it is true.
So that's Scottish.
Harsh but fair,
I guess. We have a Scottish minister. Kate Forbes is now Scottish minister for Gaelic, isn't she?
Yes. Oh, for God's sake.
Yes. So.
Well, that was just. I think basically my theory in this is that I don't think she was going to run anyway, but she's managed to extract, an extra however much money it is for that for getting a minister of doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So it's great. You're like, oh yeah, I'll get an extra. What is it? 50,000 a year for doing nothing and with no responsibilities except talking with my mates in Gaelic or Gaelic. Okay. Dear big sigh. Oh, apparently it's me. So, okay, Mark D decides, please feel free to vote for your own nomination. 3 nominations are Emma Roddick for the Union. I just can't go over that. It's just
very Zoomerish, I have to say.
It's really
Zoomerish.
It's just like, I know, we should have a union.
When we're independent, then we'll have a union.
It's like, come on.
Right.
Right, okay. Mark's John Swinney, sex one. I think it's a challenging issue. I don't think it's too zoomery, though. I was actually going to put Swinney in, though, for the lapel pin thing. So if you add that on, that is definitely,
I'll add
definitely
it.
the case.
I can add it. Can I add it?
And for his lapel badge.
The Gaelic pushers, though, just...
It's not
It's
that
like the
zoomery,
Nazis,
it's
like the grammar Nazis, but in
Yeah.
a different language. You know,
Different grammar.
you can't even type fewer or less anymore without consulting, something on the internet. You go, fewer. There were fewer flights over the less flights. Oh, and then you look it up and it goes, it should be this way, but sometimes it's that way. And you're like,
Well, try doing that in Gaelic.
And as soon as you do that, as soon as you put it up the wrong way, it doesn't matter. In fact, it doesn't matter if you put it up the wrong way or the right way. You got a bunch of people on there going, it should be the other one. You're like, no, please. Right, so anyway, the rant aside, I suppose I should make a decision here.
Yep.
I have to go for Emma. I'm sorry, I have to go for Emma.
Okay. I think you're right. I
the
think
lapel, if we did the lapel, but I should have done that. But anyway, it has to be Emma, most zoomerish.
I won last week, so anyway,
right. Oh, I'm just four.
Well, I think there's a conspiracy now. I'm not winning. I have to up my game again.
You have to up your game. That's true. You've not won for a long time. Anyway, we're so happy to have you with us here every Wednesday on our little chat here. We'll be back next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Our thought for the week is wanting to break the UK is an extreme position. It's held by less than 5% of UK citizens, maybe much less than that. And as I said, their biggest success was to convince everyone else that they were in a noble endeavour. It's not. Scottish nationalism is a toxic ideology. It always was, built in grievance and greed and Anglophobia. And really, most Scots should have no part of that.
Yeah.
The tide is turning. Though. Thank you all for your support. Please do donate if you can. Buy a t-shirt. Do all that. And we will see you next week. A huge thanks to Mary and also to Mark.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the comments.
Thanks a lot.
Right, we'll see you next week then. Take care.
Good night.